Elliot from Electronics Specifier at Productronica. I'm on the NI stand. We're going to talk about analytics across the product life cycle. And to give us an overview first, I'm joined by Penny Merriam from NI. Penny, just talk us through that.
Great. You know, we find analytics to be very beneficial across the entire product life cycle. We'll see value in the early stages of the development where you're using analytics to optimize how you look at the test and how you match that against the specifications of what you're trying to build and do that in as efficient a manner as possible. In manufacturing, we see it to be able to do the highest quality product and be able to produce the most amount of product in the time that you have. And then in use, it's really being able to catch problems in the field before they become problematic, so I can take corrective action.
How closely are you working with customers to integrate these analytics?
Very closely. We work with a number of different industries. We focus on transportation, we focus in aerospace and defense, medical devices, and each one has their nuances, but a lot of the problems are similar across that life cycle.
Okay. And are the customers taking to this approach? I mean, it's fairly something they maybe have to take on board.
Yeah, I think the future is you're going to be leveraging your data to do more and do more efficiently. You know, we think of our end customers used to that iPhone experience and expect that from all their products. And so what NI tries to do is empower them to be able to deliver these quality products much faster with higher confidence so that they can have a leap on their competition. So data will be driving it, and then it's the efficient use of data by having the right analytics for your type of product. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but it is an important part of the strategy.
And one of the benefits is just accelerating time to market for their products.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Now I'm joined by David Kaylock as well, who can explain maybe some of the science behind these analytics, how NI is helping companies absorb the analytics into their product life cycle.
Yes, so I'm focusing mostly on manufacturing and test. So manufacturing has one advantage, like you have a lot of data, but that's also like you have to get used to, you have to use it. So what you need is you have definitely like tests, you have manufacturing steps, and then you have to collect the data and harmonize it first to get a good data quality. If you have this done, you will see you have a lot of dimensions, like maybe like several measurements, stations, stuff like that. And the first thing is like to harmonize the data, to make a common picture across products, for instance. And then when you have this, you look at the data and then you choose the right tool. For instance, it's statistical tools. They are working, they are reliable. Outlier detection, for instance. We have some mavericks. You want to catch them in the manufacturing and send them to a deep inspection because you're interested in what is failing there, for instance. Or you have a part that looks anomalous and it goes into a burn-in, but the burn-in will destroy it. So you want to look first, maybe you had already some samples that had this signature, and now we say like, hey, I want to catch it before it's happening, make a deep inspection, what is wrong with this part, and then send it to burn-in, for instance. And again, then it's like, when you look at the data, it can be like 10,000, 50,000 parameters. That's too much for a human to look at. And then you need use machine learning to filter it. Find out the most significant measurements, the top 10, for instance. And then you can you make a deep dive with your eye and say, hey, this is interesting. Let's track them. And again, you can use field returns, for instance, here, as a flag or a failure in the manufacturing. And then we come back to the life cycle. Maybe before you get only a failed return, this like label is bad. With more advanced machines, 5G, like you get life cycle data, waveforms. So you have maybe more information, what happens in the machine, what kind of scenario is actually likely to lead to a fail, and then you can go back to validation and test this scenario. So you have an informed decision. What are the critical parameters, for instance, to test here? Or you look at your already collected data. Let's collect as much data as you want, basically, and then you can feedback it and see what is maybe a significant signature in this data that you can improve your process. Before, you had to know everything beforehand. You design everything beforehand with some design specs, you run it and you keep a little bit of data. Now it's more like you do it also, but keep the option to improve your process, add more analytics later on in the manufacturing as well.
You talked about identifying maybe a top 10 that you want to identify. So that comes from the customer first and foremost?
It comes from the customer. So let's say you have a failing part. It's like a murder case. You have this case and you have to find the murderer, right? So, and then it's like you have many leads. You take this and say like, hey, we went through this part, but we need maybe a different process, like some manufacturing process. We get the data, combine it, and get a better picture to see whether there is any trace of this kind of the signature in manufacturing. And of course, it's also important to know, yes, there was a signature in manufacturing. It's like it was already there. It can also be done in the field. So it's also good to know whether there's nothing in it. But quite often we find something, and then it's interestingly, like then more questions are asked. Like we have this signature, where it's coming from. Then you go deeper and deeper to stop this happening, for instance.
You say it's across the product life cycle. So, I mean, the start of the product life cycle is design, where there are obviously simulation tools that kind of bring you to it. So how does that fit in, or how do the analytics fit in, if you like, at the very start of the process in design?
So, for instance, if you are doing research or validation, you have only a small number of units you can test, either because you don't have so many units, or you don't have a handler that is measuring every part. So maybe you're limited to 100 or 1,000 units. But maybe these failures, the extreme cases, happen as 1 in a million. You won't catch them. But you want to have this information. Manufacturing is doing it for you. It fills the gaps, reach the tails, and this you can put into your simulation again. What is the actual spread in manufacturing or in the field that you can expect? And when you do your simulation, do you still succeed or not? So, yeah.
I guess this is kind of prevention rather than cure in a way. It highlights problems before they become a big problem.
They do. It highlights problems. It also helps you in figuring out the right order of doing things. So one of the things we also help customers with is test time reduction. And so to get you more efficient, I know that certain tests will be more predictive than others. If I do those first, I can fail faster, and it shifts the problem earlier in the cycle when it's less expensive and less costly to the customer.
And customers are taking to this approach, are they?
They are. I think you can see customers along a higher or a spectrum of data maturity. And so wherever you are, you can get started. And the more you use data, the more you use analytics, the more you can do with it.
Okay, just to finish off, I can tell you that Penny Marion and David Kerlock will be doing a presentation here at Productronica tomorrow. Penny, can you just give us a little more detail on that?
Sure, Mick. I'd love to. We're going to be talking about a new way to look at time series data. So historically, the only option most companies have is to look at it manually. And our data scientist team has come up with a way to be able to look at that in an automated fashion and be able to analyze a larger number of those in a shorter period of time. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow.
And what time will that be?
1:30.
Okay, so that's 1:30, November 16th. We are in Hall A1 and the Productronica Forum, just pretty much adjacent to the NI stand. So if you're interested, come along.